New England Gardening here. Today's Wednesday, May 30th, 2012. This is my Red Haven peach tree. This is the one that's in the barrel, and it's got peaches. Surprisingly, since this particular peach tree flowered early, and we had a couple of frosts when it was already flowering, but they seem to survive that cold weather, or those two periods of frost, and I've got peaches, various stages here. I have to thin out some of these peaches. I learned my lesson from last year, which I think I kept too many peaches on. But here's a gives you a good idea of the size here. I guess a little bit bigger than maybe golf ball size. And I've got these smaller ones here, which a little cluster I'll have to thin out. There's one with a imperfection and the small one here, so probably those two, take those off. But here's another thing that I have noticed, and I guess if you grow peaches, you're going to become familiar with this, and this is peach tree leaf curl. And these are the symptoms with these warty looking red nodules, or basically curling, that shows up on the leaves. And it's a fungus, and really the only way to get rid of it at this stage is to prevent it. You really can't do anything. Some people take the leaves off that have the symptoms, but that's not proven to help at all. This tree's not that bad. I don't know if it'll progress, but eventually the leaf will fall off, and then a new leaf will form, so it's not like it's going to be terminal for the tree. And really the only way to prevent it is to spray at the right time of the season, and that's in the fall or the early spring. So there's a lot of peaches on this tree, but there are no peaches whatsoever on the in-ground tree, which I think I'm going to dig up and put in a barrel also. And it is also more heavily infected with this peach tree leaf curl. Here it is here. Well, it's really curling that leaf there. You can see that. And not a single peach. And there's more dead wood on this one too. It just does not seem to be doing as good as the one that's in the barrel. Now I did print out some information. I don't know if I'm going to read the whole thing. This is the information on peach leaf curl, and it's from UMass Fruit Advisory. Probably the most irritating thing about seeing the characteristic warty red leaves of peach leaf curl is realizing that it's already too late to do anything about the disease. The second most irritating thing is realizing that a single fungicide treatment would, in all likelihood, have prevented the outbreak. And to really frustrate growers, the disease often fails to appear for years, even without fungicide treatment, only to suddenly appear in epidemic proportions during a particularly wet, cool spring, which I guess we had. So I did spray these trees, but evidently whatever I sprayed didn't prevent this leaf curl. I believe the copper spray is supposed to help or prevent leaf curl. And you can see here, these leaves are just coming off. They're just falling off now. See that? So it says that this will just prompt new leaves to grow. You can see how sparsely, or how sparse the leaves are on this in-ground tree too. It's just not as full as the one that was in ground. You can see these leaves, they just curl and then they just fall off. Now it also says here, see, disease life cycle. The fungus that causes peach leaf curl survives as spores in microscopic crevices on the tree. Spores from old infections lodge in loose bud scales and other tiny fissures waiting for the next spring. Then spores that are washed into buds or into the first new leaves will cause infections if leaves stay wet and temperatures are between 50 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Wet, cool springs keep peach growth slow, so new buds and leaves remain susceptible for a long time, and heavy leaf curl will develop in untreated peaches. A warm spring, even if it is wet, won't produce nearly as much disease. So it was that cold, wet spring we had. Once the fungus is in the tissue, in the leaf tissue, fungicides won't affect it. Infected leaves characteristically have reddened warts or curling. Leaves may also appear yellow, orange, or purple. Infections of the new twig tissue cause swelling. In rare instances, fruit may be infected and develop raised wart-like growths. Well, hopefully that won't happen on my peaches on this tree. Treatment. Leaf curl is relatively easy to prevent, even though the timing of the treatment is a little inconvenient. A fungicide spray applied in the autumn after at least 90% leaf fall, or in the spring just prior to bud swell, will generally stop leaf curl. If an orchard has been heavily diseased, making both fungicide applications may be necessary to deal with large amount of inoculum. The fungicide application should not be concentrated to more than 2 times to ensure that the coverage is thorough. Fungicides need to penetrate the microscopic crevices that are protecting fungal spores. So the most effective fungicides are chlorothalonil, Bravo, or copper compounds, Zyram, lime, sulfur, or Bordeaux are useful but somewhat less effective. Check the label for rates and other use recommendations. For the growing season, when a leaf curl epidemic hits, the only treatment is to minimize stress on the infected tree. After infected leaf drop, peaches will generally produce new leaves. This new growth stresses the tree. In severe cases, canker infections develop more easily, and trees may fail to develop adequate winter hardiness. Leaf curl can ruin one season's crop and may set the stage for more long-term problems related to stress. Minimize the stress by supplying some extra fertilizer, particularly nitrogen, irrigating, and removing the fruit load. So I'm going to have to do some of those things to remove the fruit load, fertilize, and make sure to reduce some of the stress on these trees. I don't think I've got canker on anything yet, so I don't need that too. So this is New England Gardening. This is Wednesday, May 30th, 2012. Just some of the issues that you'll have with peach trees and peach trees in New England. So thanks for watching.